Okay, we are just about finished with this particular project. We're not producing anything here. This is, of course, the Modernolette by the Modernola company. Model unknown. I guess it was just called the Modernolette. And there is no serial number, as you can see. Not sure why. Now, the Modernola company, I've had a couple of questions about this, was actually best known for things like the fancy lamp phonographs, kind of a phonograph hidden inside of a lamp. They were like a round pedestal, you know, the floor machine, and you opened up a little secret compartment, I guess, on top, and there was a phonograph hidden in there. You know, kind of a novelty sort of thing. Although their Modernolette is a fairly straightforward portable. Not the lightest, not the cheapest, you know, definitely. This is from the early 1920s when wood box phonographs, you know, finished wood, were still fairly popular. And they were still feeling their way along. This is just one of the many companies taking advantage of the craze. Sorry about the noise in the background. Taking advantage of the craze for the portable phonograph in the early 1920s. By the mid and late 20s, most portables would be fabric-covered boxes, much lighter, smaller motors. This is, you've seen the motor in the last video. This is a fairly large motor for a portable phonograph. Definitely on par with the Victor Victrola 50. Well, not as well built as the Victor 50, but it is an impressive piece of machinery here. I mean, there's so many different pieces of wood that went into making this. It's mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling how much hand fitting this must have taken. So obviously it was put together by some form of cabinet or furniture manufacturer who would have been familiar with that kind of work. It does kind of look like cabinet work. And the motor and all of that would have been sourced from some subsidiary of Heinemann in New York City. That was common for all of the off-brands pretty much, those that didn't use Swiss parts. Let's see, what have we done to it since the last video? I've cleaned the case. I have taken the motor down, cleaned it, re-greased it. Yeah, it was, okay, it did have, you know, moist grease on there. But the problem with that is it looked dirty. It might have just been graphite grease, but you can't tell. You don't want to leave dirty grease on a motor because that starts to act like sandpaper on the gears over time. And you will create wear, especially on the faster moving gears. So we took the grease off and we put new grease on. No surprises in there. Everything was in good shape, including the sort of plastic gear on the governor there, on the main shaft with the governor there. And everything else is good. I didn't have to do anything to the reproducer because that had been done already by somebody. And they did a fairly good job as far as I can tell. They did convert it. I'll show you. I think I did in the last video, but I'll show you again. They converted it to an aluminum diaphragm, which is okay. This would not have been in use in the early 1920s, obviously. This would have had a mica diaphragm, which I probably don't have in stock anyway. It's fairly large. So whoever did it put an aluminum one in there, did a good job. They might have had some corrosion issues, I'm not sure, because there's a lot of beeswax on it. See that? That stuff on there, that's beeswax, which is perfectly fine. That will not harm the diaphragm in any way. It's flexible, it's excellent to use for that. And the needle is lined up properly with this, and not the body. See, this is a straight line there. They did a good job on that. They didn't try to align it like this. That would have been very bad. And everything's in good shape here. There's, you know, nothing. I do need to get a piece of felt for that, which I have somewhere. I don't want to put a single layer in there of turntable felt or something like that. It's not thick enough. There's like a thick pad. I know I have them. I just have to dig one out. But let's try a record. I played it already with the old grease just to see how it would play. So we'll try it with the new grease. We'll try Made in America by Conway's Band. I don't think I played this one. This is another one of the records that was actually in the machine that I had forgotten about. And this is, I've since discovered there was more than one style of brake used on these machines. The other style, which I suspect is a later version, had a normal flip brake like any Victor would have, and a regular Heinemann speed control here, fairly normal. This is a little, excuse me, a little difficult to use sometimes because there's two levers on one arm. And sometimes they get bound together a little bit. That means that this machine uses its brake, it uses its friction leather as the brake, which is why I had to replace the friction leather. The extra wear put on it, stopping the turntable all the time, made it that it was almost non-existent. It was worn down to a nub, so I really did have to replace it, which is easy enough to do. I keep that material in stock, and I just swapped one on there. Wouldn't have gone much longer without coming off altogether and having a basically uncontrollable speed phonograph. You don't want that. That's of no use to anybody. See if it does it. Sometimes it will. Yeah, you see how it moved? So you got to play with it a little bit. Not the end of the world. I do have it set to 78 anyway, so if you put it to 78, it is 78. Oh, a little bit. There we go. Okay. Yeah, some wear on that one. Not horrible, but enough so that it's noticeable. It does kind of look a little bit hazed, but it's old. That's to be expected. Not every record is going to play like new. Might as well play the flip side since I have it out. I got some grime on there a little bit. The Bon Ton One Step. And I got to put this down for a minute to change the needle. Because this one is designed so that you actually remove the entire tone arm. It just pops right out to change the needle. Which does, I guess, make it a little easier for these kind of fixed reproducers. You can't flip these up so that you can easily replace the needle, so you're stuck doing it that way. Take the whole thing out. Let's see if I can... See, I did it again. You've just about got to read. Now I understand why they changed the speed control on this machine, because I can tell there must have been some complaints. No, the side wasn't that bad. Less wear than the first side did. And we got another one here to play. Do have to wind the machine up though. Most portables. This one will easily handle probably 3 sides of a record, but obviously handles 2 even of a worn record. Because it is a fairly large spring. But, okay, these are actually original Victor sleeves on these things. That's something you don't see every day. What do we got? The National Emblem March. United States Marine Band. National Emblem March. It sounds familiar. I think I have that one somewhere. And once again, we change the needle. And we wind the machine. This is a very smooth winding motor. There we go. Let's see how the National Emblem March does. A little bit of haze on there. Not too bad. It shows it's been played a time or two. Then again, it's probably over 100 years old, so that's not too surprising. There we go again. Back to 78. Let's see. That one played pretty good. Let's do the flip side while we got it out. Oh, we got a little bit of mold on there. We'll take care of that later. The German Fidelity March, United States Marine Band. I wonder what that's all about. Considering the era these came out of, I didn't think there'd be too many pro-German songs on them. Okay. Let's change out the needle and find out. Alrighty. Machine has good volume. I don't know quite what to expect with this style, but certainly does a good job. Okay. And there we go. There you have it. The Modernolette. I'm going to call this one done, except for that piece of felt, which I will acquire somewhere. And you know, this machine's missing a few things. Like, you see these little corner pieces in here they put? There's one missing there, down there, and let's take that out of there before I close the lid and show you the other one. A couple here on the front of the lid, but the back ones are there. I don't have parts machines for these, so I'm not going to worry about this. Looks like they were more of an afterthought than any kind of actual utility value there. One of these is missing off the bottom, little stuff. These little extra things they put on this machine, they had to add to its cost, but really weren't necessary. Yet, for some reason, they felt they had to do it for decorative purposes, or they're just glued in there. They're not tack screwed or anything like that. It's just kind of strange. And inside the case is just as bad. There's big pieces in the corners here, and little pieces here and there. Oops. Let's look inside the horn. Maybe you can see something in there. No, not really. That's where your crank goes, right there. And of course, this is where the tone arm goes, which I will actually stow and show you how that fits in there. Always take the needle out before you stick it in there. There you go. That's where the tone arm goes, and you just flip it closed, flip it down. Of course, should you ever have to ship a machine like this, never do this. Take that tone arm, wrap it up in bubble wrap, and stick it in the horn. And then stick more bubble wrap in there so it can't bounce around and move. Because if you leave it like this, it's not going to stay there in transit. It's going to pop off. It's going to bounce around inside the horn opening and against the crank, damaging itself, damaging the machine. And go ahead and try to find one of these tone arms. You're not going to find one. Very, very difficult. You know, there's very few of these machines left, and not many of them are for parts. And a lot of them probably have pot metal issues with these tone arms, because I'm pretty sure this part and all of this is pot metal. I mean, it could be machined aluminum, but I just don't think so. Just good condition pot metal, because that was commonly what was used. So you want to be able to preserve that, because I have 100 horror stories about shipping. How various sellers on eBay chose to ship things to me, even after they got detailed instructions on how to pack. I suspect many of them had it packed already and didn't want to unpack it and figured, it's good enough. No, it's not. It's not good enough. If you don't know what you're doing packing a machine like this or any kind of Victrola or whatever, it's going to arrive ruined, and sometimes it'll arrive ruined anyway. One of the last ones I sold last year was a Victor Victrola the 8th tabletop model, and it arrived with the lid damaged. Why? Because UPS in that case banged it around, dropped it, slammed it. I mean, I had it pretty well packed, so they had to really slam that to break it, because it was solid. Fortunately, the new owner was able to fix it, and it is back in service, but that's the kind of thing that can happen. So you always have to just assume the worst. Assume that you're going to get, you know, the 5 gorillas that are going to play touch football with your box up and down the facility somewhere. They're going to fling it off the plane when it gets to its destination, everything else. If you pack, assuming that, generally you'd be all right. But these are not always, these machines aren't bad to ship. Portables generally aren't. They're easy. They're made to be portable, so they can take a little bit of banging around. But your average tabletop machines, you really got to be careful with those, especially the ones that aren't Victor. Because like Columbia's and other ones are a little bit more delicate. You really do have to be extremely careful. But hopefully there'll be no problems. I will be selling this eventually, and when it does get shipped out, it will be wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and wrapped again. Okay, well there you go. The Modernolette by the Modernola Company from the early 1920s. I can't get a more precise date on it because it just isn't a lot of available information on most of these off-brands. You know, like I said, Modernola is basically known for its floor machines with the lamps on them. Not so much, you know, these portables, although they're very well made and very nice. But for some reason, there's just not a whole lot out there on them. You know, fortunately with this machine, and it had been well cared for by the people that had it before me, and it wasn't, you know, abandoned in a garage somewhere for 80 years and missing parts, except for the little pieces of wood here and there. All the mechanical stuff had been cared for. Only thing I found I had to do was the friction leather, and one of the washers on the turntable was a little too thick, and it was causing the turntable to be a little cockeyed on the motorboard, and it was hitting the speed control. You hear a little zing, 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 a little scraping as it went by, so we took care of that. That was easy, and there were no surprises when I did the motor. It was just dirt and grease. Wash it off, put new grease on, everything was good, nothing was broken. Really nice quality motor in there, you know, so there were no issues with it. And that's what you like to see with the oddball stuff. If it was a Victor machine and has an issue with the motor, unlikely to me, but sometimes things get damaged. An issue with the motor, easy enough to find parts for. You're going to find it somewhere. There's multiple sellers out there with lots of Victrola parts. Victor was the biggest manufacturer of phonographs on earth. They made millions of machines. A lot of them survived to modern day. Easy to find parts for. When you get into the off-brands, this could have been a company that only made, say, 10,000 units of something in 1 or 2 years, if that much, and then switched to something else or went out of business or changed its name or made a different model, whatever. And when you go to find parts for it, you might find all kinds of difficulties. You might find that they used one style of motor in 1 year, the next, and halfway through the year they changed to another supplier. You know, and say they were using Heinemann in 1922, then switched to Swiss in 1923, and which happened with the camp phone, by the way. And you don't know what you have in there. If something's broken, you're in trouble. Unless you're a skilled machinist with a mill, you're in trouble. You could go years trying to find the parts.